1 day ago. This is a lot of views, so I want to see this. I'm curious. Okay, let's see. Let's see it.
We think of identity politics, defining a group based on its race, religion, or sexual orientation, as a new development, something that recently emerged out of academia. The truth is, identity politics has a long history in the United States.
It depends on what kind of identity politics you're referring to. Our like modern understanding of like racial inequality and even broader intersectionality is somewhat, it's new in the sense that like a new precedent has been set that this is like a thing that a lot more people know about rather than being like a fringe thing that, you know, and the people who espouse it get called like fucking commies or whatever. So sure, I guess in that regard, we now have a new understanding because history has progressed.
You could fairly say it was the basis of the Civil War. Ultimately, this obsession with group identity was rejected. It is fundamentally a primitive concept and not an American one.
I want everyone to remember how they always bring on a black conservative when they're talking about this because they need to like deflect from the racist allegations. They'll write like a fucking script of like a bunch of like racist shit, and then they'll have a black conservative come on, so you can't call them racist because, which is so funny because they're unironically engaging in identity politics for doing that. Like that is the perfect example of engaging in identity politics, is bringing on a black conservative to say a bunch of racist shit so that you can deflect that. That is the perfect example of what identity politics is. Thank you.
The American ideal, as stated in the Declaration of Independence and later reaffirmed in the Civil Rights Movement of the 1960s.
Okay, wait. Because I'm pretty sure the PragerU has previously done videos about how like the Civil Rights Movement was bad. So I don't know what they're trying. Okay, I'm
has
curious.
Always been a colorblind society in which people are judged based on merit and character.
They literally recycle these arguments like so much. It's so exhausting. The colorblind thing is the goal. Like the idea is that we should strive for a society where people are judged based on merit and character.
But toxic ideas have a way of resurfacing.
So
merit and character.
So this is the goal. The problem is, to get there, you have to recognize the current inequalities that exist that make this not the case. And then, obviously, they understand this because they are a sophisticated propaganda, like right-wing propaganda organization. But they try to misrepresent recognizing that people are oppressed based on their race instead of, you know, judged by their merit and character. They try to paint that as like, you recognizing that? That's the racist thing. And of course, that's what this conservative is on here to say.
But toxic ideas have a way of resurfacing. Identity politics is one of those ideas. The overriding question for those who embrace identity politics seems to be, who am I? On its own, the question is perfectly legitimate. But it easily becomes destructive when it demands that one's group identity be recognized in law, corporate hiring, and other areas of public policy.
Okay, so what kind of corporate, because this is referenced in law in the sense that you can't discriminate based on these characteristics. Are you opposed to that, PragerU? I genuinely don't know how far right PragerU is right now. Like, I feel like they're a bit wishy-washy. Because I'm pretty sure they've unironically advocated against the civil rights movement. Like, they've said that that was a bad thing, the civil rights movement. Because, like, oh no, that's authoritarian. Because now I can't like not allow black people in my business. It's I don't know how far gone they are, but I guess we'll see.
Once government begins handing out benefits, protections, or status on the basis of group identity, politics becomes a competition among tribes.
No. The average wealth of a white family is 13 times that of a black family. So, economic policy to fix inequality obviously needs to be tailored to sometimes specific racial groups. But listen, the actual like solutions, by the way, don't even necessarily involve specifically considering racial groups. They can involve just like areas that are like in significant poverty, that are stuck in the cycle of, you know, shitty schools because of poor funding from property taxes, that obviously repeats the cycle, because then you go to a shitty school, you get a shitty job, make shitty income, contribute to shitty schools, cycle repeats, right?
Every group is encouraged to see itself not as a collection of individuals, but as a block with claims on the state.
Again, this is you people projecting this. That's not the point.
This is not a recipe for national unity. It is a recipe for endless conflict.
No.
In the 19th century, the country was torn apart by racial ideology that claimed white people were inherently superior and therefore entitled to rule over others.
Yes, and we spent all of the time since correcting for this, like, atrocity that was committed.
That belief helped justify slavery and the denial of basic human dignity. Even after the Civil War and the 13th Amendment ended slavery, it took a century of hard-fought struggle to challenge that lie.
Be careful, PragerU, because if you bring that up, you're going to have to explain how that suddenly, all of that oppression and all of that brutality, is this AI? I honestly wouldn't be surprised. You're going to have to explain how all of that somehow doesn't still affect us today. Because it does, by the way.
And bring the nation closer to its founding principles. Yet, starting in the 1970s and accelerating through the 1990s, a new identity politics took root in American universities. It sorted people into racial, ethnic, and gender categories, assigning each group a place in a hierarchy of victimhood.
Again, recognizing a hierarchy does not, like, this is like if you're like this guy would be like in a fucking peasant, like he would be a fucking, you know, he would be in a fucking like feudal society working for like a lord, and he'd turn to his friend and he'd be like, you know, oh, isn't everything great? And his friend would be like, no, we literally are like forced to work for this fucking guy, and like we're basically starving. And then he's like, bro, what? Why are you pointing out are you like enforcing a hierarchy, bro? It's like, what the fuck are you talking? The hierarchy exists. Academia studies this shit, but you don't. But since you're too much of a fucking idiot to understand it, you just write it off because you can't actually understand that, like, you know, for example, bro, they used the term like critical race theory as a buzzword for so long, when in reality it described like a very complex legal theory that like it was basically just accepted as fact. I mean, like, it's undeniable. The criminal justice system is so incredibly biased towards you know, like against African Americans. It's actually fucking insane. Like, it's ridiculous, dude. So that's obviously a legal theory that's going to be taught in higher academia. They were not teaching critical race theory in schools. They were saying that the basic fact that, like, yeah, African Americans still have not recovered from the all of the centuries of fucking racial oppression. Anyway,
argued that, as Howard University professor Ibram X. Kendi put it, the remedy to past discrimination is present discrimination, just with a different set of winners and losers. At first, this remained largely confined to college campuses, but within a generation, this ideology had migrated from the academy into newsrooms, corporations, government agencies, and school curricula.
Again, yes, because the average wealth of a white family is 13 times that of a black family, and there is still significant economic inequality, and your only solution to this, like, I don't even think we're gonna get one. I don't even think we're gonna get a real solution. I think they're just gonna complain about gender ideology and, you know, like, I don't know, whatever, like cultural Marxism. Maybe they'll call it cultural Marxism. Who knows? They're just gonna complain about like leftists and not actually propose any solutions.
Identity became the lens through which seemingly every policy debate, every hiring decision, and every cultural controversy was filtered. The competition never ends, and the grievances never resolve, because the game isn't really about fairness.
Because of people like you?
It's about power. This vicious cycle is exactly why today's identity politics are so dangerous. Policies meant to help one group inevitably hurt and breed resentment in others.
So, hurt, you're going to have to provide evidence for that. Breed resentment, that's what you're doing by making this video.
This fracturing has become so pervasive that it has even sparked a new white identity movement. Some now espouse the same racist thinking that once dominated the American South. The idea that whites are the superior race and that minorities...
Is he playing... Holy shit! Holy fuck, bootlicking piece of shit. He's literally blaming. He's blaming the fact that there are fucking white supremacists and like Nazis. He's blaming that on the fact that there are people trying to like dismantle racial inequality. What? That's the you want to like actually help black people out of a horrible economic cycle of like poverty? You're the reason why there are fucking people who want to genocide them and who want to fuck like what? Awesome, amazing.
Need to be reminded of their place in the racial hierarchy. It is the old racist poison in a new bottle. At the core of all of this is a victim mentality.
A victim mentality. I think that's their favorite word, and they can never actually substantiate why. Like they can never actually substantiate why they're saying this shit.
I'm a victim because of my group identity, the thinking goes, and therefore the government must protect me, favor me, and privilege me over others.
So, I mean, and this isn't actually saying anything. That there isn't even anything to respond to here because this is just a caricature that he's making of people who believe. I mean, this isn't even like substantive at all.
This mindset destroys personal responsibility.
Yes, personal responsibility. Again, they have no solutions, so they say personal responsibility because it doesn't. That doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean anything. What personal responsibility policy are you going to implement?
It teaches people to look outward.
And then their answer is like, oh, we're going to take single mothers off of welfare.
Excuses
okay, good.
rather
Awesome,
than
bro.
inward for solutions. If we continue down this path, we will break the country into 1,000 pieces.
So name one solution.
America cannot survive as a collection of rival tribes battling for government and social favors.
Again, no one is battling for government and social favors. I just...
None of this means ethnic identity should disappear. America has always been enriched by celebrating different traditions, foods, and music. The problem begins when group identity becomes political identity, which then becomes a demand for unequal...
Because the analysis of different group identities is inherently political, because there are groups that are still significantly oppressed. Is this an argument for bringing back slavery? I mean, bro, I wouldn't. I mean, give PragerU a couple of years, they'll be on that.
Treatment under the law. The solution is not a new one. It's 250 years old.
I'm pretty sure they unironically, like PragerU in the past has unironically done like the slavery was a battle for states' rights bit.
Belief that all men are created equal and endowed by their creator with the rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Rights government is supposed to secure, not assign according to race or tribe.
Again, this like requires a complete misunderstanding, like a complete and total misunderstanding of what the actual proposed economic policy is, to solve racial inequality.
A colorblind society does not mean pretending that injustice in the past never happened. It means refusing to let the injustices of the past become the blueprint for the future. It means rejecting both the old racism of white supremacy and the new tribalism that insists every question must be answered through the lens of identity.
Again, not every question. This is obviously the whole video is a straw man. What's being proposed is that we invest in poor communities and we create programs to uplift people out of poverty instead of continuing the cycle. It's complicated, but these people will never actually engage in the complexity of it, and they'll just call it like, oh, you want to give everyone welfare, and we want people to be lazy. Awesome.
It means telling every child, you are not a prisoner of your group.
So notice how not a single solution was proposed this entire video.
Responsible for your choices, capable of excellence, and entitled to equal treatment. That is the American promise.
So again, like, I actually think this is like insane, especially because there are people who genuinely say, and I think this would be the answer here, that he would give if he was asked about this. Because the question I would ask, okay, what's your solution? Is your solution personal responsibility? Then can you explain to me what policy we would implement? Because you can't just tell people to be personally responsible. And if you seriously think that like just telling people, guys, hey, let me get a microphone. Guys, be personally responsible. If you think that will do anything, you are brain dead and delusional. You are delusional if you actually think that is a solution. And you should never speak about politics ever again. Now, here's what you can do. Interpersonally, it is always good to tell people, hey, you can try to, do what you can to better your current situation. This is not saying that people need to just lay down and die and wait for a policy to save them. Because interpersonally, you can say, hey, here are things that you can do to improve your condition. These are things that you can do that will help, help bring you. Now, even though there are so many things that are against you, right? Still, these are a set of things that you can do to try to improve your situation. Are they trying to argue against legal protections for minorities? Yeah, but they're making it deliberately vague enough where what they're saying could mean anything from they don't want what reparations where white people get their money stolen from them, which is never happening ever, and that's never what's proposed. Or they want to repeal the Civil Rights Act. They're leaving it deliberately vague enough so the super racists can say yes, we want to repeal the Civil Rights Act, while the others can kind of think whatever they want to think about it. Yeah. So, again, you can tell people interpersonally to be more personally responsible, but that's not a policy, my friend, and that will never do anything to actually fix things from a policy level. There is no personal responsibility policy. Actually, the personal responsibility policy will be to remove the welfare from the single mothers. I don't know. That's what they'll say. It's the personal responsibility policy is to remove welfare programs and social safety nets. Is there any actual evidence that works? No. Will they still say it anyway? Yeah. Amazing.
Not group privilege, but individual liberty. Not racial spoils, but equal justice. Not a fractured nation, but one people bound together by a shared commitment to freedom, merit, and opportunity. I'm
True, that's why I support socialism.
Andre Archie, Associate Professor of Philosophy at Colorado State University for Prager University. Thank you for watching this video.
Oh my god. That was hell. That was the worst fucking video I've ever seen. No, it wasn't. I've seen worse, but listening with half an ear.